What's up, everybody? Welcome into Hockey Sense, another edition here live at the Half Coast Studios, brought to you by First Community. Great to have you with us. As always, it's our Friday tradition, so much to get into on this edition. We'll talk to Glenn Hefferan coming up. He's the commissioner of the USHL. All this talk about the shift in the Canadian Hockey League, the CHL, which is made up of three leagues, the OHL, the WHL, and the Quebec League. The Quebec Major Junior Hockey League now eligible for NCAA hockey. So what does this mean for college hockey? What does this mean for the USHL? I think a lot of people are thinking this is going to be great for college hockey because you're going to attract bigger names and certainly some players who have a lot of talent and a lot of ability who in the past would not have been eligible to play college hockey. So that's great. How's that going to impact the USHL? Is the USHL going to lose players now to the CHL? Are families and kids and advisors and agents, are they going to feel like the best path to get to the National Hockey League is to go through the CHL, then to college, or not? Or is the USHL going to, maintain its status as the number one league and the number one option for the American player who wants to play college hockey? I'm hearing about it from so many different people. Some people are saying, "Hey, I may have my son go play in the OHL for a year or two, then come play in the USHL maybe for a year, then college, or go play college out of the OHL." The USHL has been such a great league for so long and has so much history and tradition. And I will say this: I don't think you're going to find many of the top American players who are capable or good enough to make the national team development program for USA Hockey, who are going to bypass that opportunity of playing in the under-18 World Championships and the under-17 World Championships and the facilities and everything that comes with playing for the NTDP, the tradition, the coaching. Everything that you get with the national team. I don't see many kids saying, "Hey, I'm just going to go play Canadian Major Junior as opposed to going to the national team development program." But what does it mean for the kid who's drafted to go play in Sioux City or Sioux Falls or Fargo or Lincoln or Madison, Chicago, whatever? If the London Knights come calling, if Kitchener comes calling, if Windsor comes calling, how will that change? But there's lesser teams in the CHL as well, who now all of a sudden have the option to go to the USHL. So you got to look at it both ways. And I say the option to go to the USHL and continue to maintain their NCAA eligibility. So we'll get into that. Blues lose last night to the Hockey Club of Utah. Is that what they're? Utah Hockey Club? Whatever they are. I think the consensus is they're going to be called the Yeti as soon as next season. So get ready for that. I think there was a timetable. Like there's a certain number of days based on the regulations and whatever laws that are in place that they could not, because of the timing of when the NHL moved the team from Arizona to Utah, they couldn't just turn around and name the name of the team or announce the name of the team. They have to wait on that. So they are the Utah Hockey Club for now, and then next year they'll implement the name. And it's believed to be the Yeti. Not confirmed. Utah was here doing some digging. That's the impression and the perception that I get. And that'll be the future name of the Utah Hockey Club. The Blues get outshot 14-2 in the second period, 31-15 in the game. They were trailing early. They tied the game late in the first period, so you kind of felt good about where they were. And then they give up the late goal in the second period. They tie it up again in the third, and then give up an inexcusable goal. That was the go-ahead goal, and essentially clinched the game for Utah. A sick backhand Hail Mary pass from Clayton Keller in the opening moments of the game. I think it's a second straight start for Joel Hofer that he's allowed the first shot against to go in, although last night was a little bit goofy, as Kesserling, who went in on a breakaway, he's a defenseman. He got ahead of Dylan Holloway. Holloway couldn't catch him, and he fans on the puck, and it goes 5-0 on Joel Hofer. So you hate to see that right off the bat. Kind of a lucky goal. Even the third goal was a little bit lucky in the sense that it went off of Colton Parayko, who slid in an effort to break up the 2-on-1. Colton Parayko, by the way, scores again last night. He's playing incredible hockey right now. All of you out there that are putting down your Canadian rosters for the upcoming Four Nations, if you don't have his name on there, then you are just, it's not an accurate, list of players. Because, I do think he's going to make the team. I don't know how you can keep him off. Who's better? Who's a better defender right now? And I mean it, better defender. Not necessarily who puts up the most points. You don't need a guy to go out there and play on the power play. You've got Cale Makar. Just keep him on the ice for 2 minutes, and you're fine. You don't need somebody else. You've got Cale Makar. But if you want a true defender who can shut down the top players in the world, there is truly nobody better at doing it right now than Colton Parayko. And I've seen some of these lists come out, these projections of what Canada's roster is going to look like, and many of them don't have Colton Parayko's name on there. He's going to make this team. Especially when you see him go into Canada a week or two ago, goes into Toronto, played his best game of the season. The Blues lost in Montreal, but Colton Parayko had another great game there. He's scoring goals now. He scored a couple of goals the other night. Scores another goal last night. It was a beautiful play, too, off the rush. Fakes the pass over to Holloway and then goes bar down with a nice wrist shot. This guy can obviously shoot the puck. He can skate. And now you're seeing the plays that he's making offensively. So that's the positive. All right, the elephant in the room is Jordan Kyrou. And I know some people are going to say that he's still a young player and he's still trying to figure it out. Jordan Kyrou has lots of experience. He's not a young player anymore. He's young in age, but he's not young in experience. He knows how to play the game the right way. And last night was an inexcusable mistake. Now, if he connects on the pass, the drop pass that he makes inside the zone, then obviously we're not talking about this. But, a great play by Pavel Buchnevich to slide it over to Kyrou. Nice shot. The Blues tie the game. In a game, really, they have no business in winning when you look at the difference in shot attempts and shots on goal and just how the game was played. The Blues didn't have their A game. And they were only down by a goal going into the third period, so they tie it up. Kyrou's the guy who ties it up. Again, no Robert Thomas in the lineup right now. Kyrou's a guy you look at who you need to step up offensively for this team. And he has. He's got goals in 3 straight. Last night's turnover was completely different than the one that we saw against Philadelphia. Philadelphia, that was just the puck bounced on him. That can happen to anybody. He didn't turn the puck over. He didn't have a puck intercepted or a pass intercepted, or it wasn't a giveaway. The puck bounced on him and he lost it. That happens. That happens. And last night was inexcusable. You tie the game up. You're in position to get to overtime at the very least. Who knows? Maybe win it. And I understand that he's trying to make a play. He's an offensive player. He wants to make plays. But again, the most responsible, veteran, smart players understand how to play time and score. And in that situation, it's a tie game. It's late in the third. That puck needs to go deep. You can't drop it in that situation because of the chances of what happened happening. Where Gunther makes a nice read on it, intercepts the play. They go down on a 2-on-1. Parayko goes down. Puck hits him in the back of the pants and goes in past Joel Hofer. Kyrou wasn't under pressure in that situation. That was a simple play to make. There's an old saying in football, to live and play another down. That's a situation where you probably want to do that. Don't force it. Just get the puck deep into the corner. Try to create some offense off of a forecheck from below the goal line. And if you don't, whatever, keep the puck down there. Let the clock trickle down. Get to overtime and secure a point. And they didn't do that. So, yeah, that's an inexcusable mistake by Jordan Kyrou. So you take the good, and then, unfortunately, you have to take the bad. Leading into the game, I did something on our pregame show on FanDuel Sports Midwest about Kyrou, and some comments that I thought were very interesting from head coach Drew Bannister, who talked about, I think his exact quote was, "I love his team game." Kyrou's a plus player going into last night's game. He was +3 going into last night's game. And ends up being, what was he? -1. So he's +2 now. He's a plus player. Big difference versus where he's been the last couple of years, where he's been heavily slanted on the minus side. And, things have not been good for him from a defensive standpoint, or demonstrating an all-around game, or all of that. He's made some changes in that area, and you got to commend him for that, honestly. He really has. And the smart hockey people understand that. You watch him, compete on the puck. The second and third effort is there, maybe, where it hasn't been in the past. He wins puck battles. He's always been intelligent in terms of intercepting passes. I think even last year, he led the team, and he was among the league leaders in intercepted passes in the defensive end by a forward. And you still get, his speed and creativity offensively. I think he leads all players in the league in rush chances 5-on-5. Now, he doesn't have a ton to show for it. Scores his 5th goal of the season last night. He's leading the team now in goals. He's leading the team in points. But in the critical moments of the game, that's where you need his experience to show up. He's not a young player. He's not a rookie. That was a rookie mistake last night, and you don't like seeing that from Jordan Kyrou, but he knows it. And you got to turn the page. That was a winnable game for me against Utah. They're an average team. They didn't play against the Florida Panthers, the New York Rangers. It wasn't the Vegas Golden Knights. That wasn't an alpha in the NHL. It wasn't one of the big dogs in the NHL. That was the Utah Hockey Club, who got off to a good start and has since come back to life. They're just okay. They're not great. They're average. To me, they're not a playoff team. Blues got to find a way to win that game on home ice. It would have been nice to win 3 in a row. They've been trying to get to 3 in a row all season long, and they haven't been able to do it. Each time they've had a crack at winning their 3rd consecutive game, they haven't been able to do so. So you'd like to see this team get a winning streak. And again, 2 more home games coming up on this homestand. You got Washington coming in, then Boston. And we'll see what the Blues can do with those 2 games and hopefully get out of here before they head back on the road, going 4-1 on this homestand. I think you'll take that. You'll take it. Washington, you got Ovi just scoring in bunches right now. Is that fun to see, or are you on the fence of you don't want to see him passing Wayne Gretzky, so you don't like seeing that? I like it, man. I like him scoring. I do. I'm a traditionalist. I wouldn't mind to see Gretzky's record stand forever. And I would love to see nobody pass Wayne Gretzky, but it's inevitable. It's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I've been saying that since Ovechkin was 100 goals plus away from tying Gretzky. So, now here we are, 34 goals away, something like that from tying Gretzky. It's inevitable. Whether it happens this year or next year, it's going to happen. Could happen this year the way this guy is scoring right now. I mean, he still got the 30 plus last season. Ovechkin, the way that he's scoring right now, he could easily get to 40-plus goals. And if he does, man, this is going to get real interesting to see if he can do it this year. Now, the big question becomes, if he gets to it this year, what's that number going to look like by the time Alexander Ovechkin is done playing? I mean, 900 goals, obviously, he's going to get to 900. Does he get to 950? Does he get to 975? Can he get to 1,000 goals? Will he play long enough where he gets to 1,000 goals? You just wonder, if you're Washington, how long, as long as he's scoring goals, you're fine with it. But how long do you keep him on board and just allow him just to do his thing and just kind of post up on the power play, not really drive the play or impact the play a ton, certainly not at the level that he used to, 5-on-5. So you want to see him get to the record and do that in a Capitals jersey, but then how long do you keep him around after that? That'll be interesting to see how that plays out, but, one thing at a time. So that's where we're at, man. This CHL news is big. We'll get into it with Jamal Mayers coming up, too. We'll talk about some other stuff coming up with him. We'll go around the NHL with Jammer and obviously get into that Blues game from last night. But Glenn Hefferan, the commissioner of the USHL, he's going to join me next. Appreciate him giving us some time. I'm just curious how this impacts the USHL, so we'll get into that. Hockey Sense, as always, live from Half Coast Studios, brought to you by our friends over there at First Community. Nobody does banking better than First Community. Happy anniversary, by the way, to First Community. You knew about First Community, but you may not know they've been calling St. Louis home since 1934. 90 years, over 400,000 members doing their banking with First Community. But did you know it's actually not a bank? It's a credit union. There's a difference. It's a non-for-profit financial cooperative. So if you have an account at First Community, automatically you're a member of this non-for-profit. If you're not a member yet, you should join. It takes $1 to open up an account as long as you qualify for membership. $1. And you become a member. First Community has branches from Warrenton to Waterloo and Florissant to Festus. St. Louis is the only market First Community has ever served, and they wouldn't have it any other way. So join me, please, in wishing First Community and their staff of over 700 local employees a happy 90th anniversary to First Community. And we love having First Community as our title sponsor here on Hockey Sense. We also love Four Hands Brewing Company, Kevin Lemp and Company, my main man, Kevin Lemp. Love that guy. Everything he's done for our community here as well, including making that mango lemonade, Cam and Strick hard seltzer, baby. Yeah, we love that. Now on the shelves, get that mango lemonade, Cam and Strick hard seltzer. It's in that matte black can. It's got the Blues hockey colors on it. They've got a bunch of seltzers, a bunch of year-round beers, seasonal beers. They've got the 1220 spirits. They've got the tasting room downtown, the tasting room in Chesterfield, which is incredible. Absolutely incredible. Food from Peacemaker at the Kirkwood location and downtown. Food from High Point at the Kirkwood location. That airport location is about to open very, very soon. So a lot of great things happening with Four Hands Brewing Company, Kevin Lemp, and the boys just flat out getting it done over there. So congrats to everything they've done and how successful they've been over there at Four Hands Brewing Company. Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop. You talk about local businesses, man. We got First Community. You know the theme here, right? First Community, Four Hands, Dirt Cheap Fun, the Wallace family. Everything they've done to take Dirt Cheap to the next level. Don't sleep on their party supplies, by the way. If you've got Christmas parties coming up, holiday parties, Thanksgiving, you're hosting, get all your paper goods that you need, your decorations, all of that. The beer, wine, and booze, get all of it at Dirt Cheap. Download that app, and if you do, you'll get specials and deals that you wouldn't get otherwise without having the app. So download the app for Dirt Cheap today. They've got so many great deals, they call them steals. Everything already is a great deal there, but now you get even better deals over there with Dirt Cheap. So check that out. Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop. Say what's up to Jason Wallace and everybody over there, the Wallace family. The best. Some locations, by the way, have drive-thrus. So, again, you don't even have to get out of your car to do your shopping. You can shop online, too. They'll bring it out to you. There's a lot of good things happening with Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop. Blue Note Roofing, David Novak, man. I saw him at the Blues game last night. He was in studio with us. Was it last week? Yeah, it was last week. He was here in studio. He's the best, man. I've got more people reaching out to me about David Novak. 314-920-5713. He's the absolute best when it comes to roofing, siding, gutters, soffit, fascia, whatever it is you're looking for. He's the best roofer in the business. And this guy has been for quite some time. He'll talk pucks with you. He'll talk hockey with you. He loves talking hockey. He'll be at that Winter Classic coming up in December in Chicago. I got my tickets too. Will you be going to Chicago for the Winter Classic? Check it out. Winter Classic, baby. Blues and the Blackhawks. Looking forward to that coming up. Can't wait for that. So check that out. Blue Note Roofing. He's got that yellow truck. It's driving around town. It's got Blue Notes all over it. You can't miss it. Again, 314-920-5713. So check that out. Arco Construction taking St. Louis hockey to the next level, one ice rink at a time. They built a ton of rinks here in town, including the Shark Tank, that beautiful 2-sheet facility in Chesterfield, and the 4-sheet facility where the Blues practice, the Centene Community Ice Center. They also built Putt Shack and Top Golf, so they bring the fun to St. Louis as well. John Comlos and Jeff Cook, everybody over there with Arco Construction. Again, taking St. Louis hockey to the next level, one ice rink at a time. Glenn Hefferan, the one and only. I'm looking forward to this conversation. Commissioner of the USHL. College hockey, the landscape is changing. We'll talk to Glenn. He joins me next. I'm Andy Strickland. This is Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community. Don't go anywhere. All right, USHL Commissioner Glenn Hefferan. Listen, it's great to have you with us. So much news that's going on right now in regards to the CHL and NCAA hockey and how that's going to affect all these other major junior leagues. And, you know, for so long, the USHL has kind of been on an island by itself. There's been no real competition for the USHL, at least here in the States. And that's always been the best junior league. And I assume that's going to stay the same. But Glenn, this is not a shock for you, right? You knew this news was coming down eventually.
Well, I think we've been hearing about this for several years. It was a case of, well, when was the litigation going to be launched? It's been talked about, in the inner circles of hockey for years. We all understood when I joined with the league in last year in July. Our board fully understood that this was coming. I think nobody saw this happening as fast as it did. But again, hockey culture does not like change. I mean, try changing the tag up rule and, people lost their mind, right? So we don't like change. But I think the dust settles and we go back to doing what we do really well. We have been a focus of college development as well as NHL development for many years under USA Hockey and the Tier 1 requirements. We do an impeccable job with that. I think our draft numbers speak for itself compared to any individual league. We had I think it was 197 drafts over the last 5 years, NHL drafted players. That's more than any other individual league in the world by 32 draft picks. And then obviously the rest fall off. And even, I know some people like to say, well, they're counting NTDP. Well, of course we count NTDP. They're part of the league. But even when you pull that out, I think it was Brad Elliott Schlossman did a piece a couple of weeks ago. He sent out a tweet that said, even when you remove NTDP, the USHL team for team still gets more drafted players than any other league when you do it on a per team basis. We've got 15 teams other than NTDP. And I think that worked out to this past year's draft was 1.4 players per team. So, we're getting those draft numbers. Our numbers of players moving into the American League are very high. And if you look at this year's current NHL rosters, 78% of those players all played in the American League before going into the NHL. So I'm very confident our teams and owners and coaches and GMs know exactly what's required to prepare kids for college hockey. And there's a reason why, over 50% of college hockey right now, is from USHL alum. Yeah. I don't see that changing.
Yeah, well, there's no question. Kids growing up here in the States, I mean, who dream about playing in the NHL, their path to getting there is going through the USHL and then obviously college. I think most kids here in the States, I mean, that's their dream is to play college. I mean, unless maybe you grow up in a family that has some tradition with the CHL. But I'm just curious, are you in favor of this, of the new ruling by the NCAA? Is this something you're in favor of?
Well, I think obviously when you look at the rule itself, it gave a bit of an advantage to the USHL. There's no question. But I look at any change as a potential for opportunity. And that I totally believe in. It creates an opportunity to grow the game, not just at the junior level, but at the collegiate level. I don't want to see 64 Division I teams. I want to see 164 Division I teams. How do we get there? How do we grow? How do we see college hockey grow? I think that's definitely a big part of it. So I see that there's opportunity to I think there's people, I don't want to speak for any other league, but I am sure there's concern in the CHL about losing players that go direct to college after a year in the CHL. I'm sure that's a concern for them because they rely on those players for a contracted period, where in the USHL we don't have contracts at this point, and players advance out to their next level based upon their pace of development. So I think that's the uniqueness that we offer, and I think certainly it's going to be interesting to see how this impacts Whereas if an NHL team drafts a player in college, they've got that 4-year runway, where that's not the case. With the CHL, it's only 2 years. So it will be interesting to see how that shifts, and whether or not the PA looks to change that aspect of the agreement. So there's a lot more dust to settle. And if anybody thinks they know exactly where this is all going to land, then they must have a crystal ball and they're Karnak. That's a old Johnny Carson reference. But at the end of the day, we do hockey, we do it well. I certainly think the NHL sees the USHL as an important partner of theirs, and they're going to want to see us continue to thrive and do what we've been doing the last 8 to 10 years.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up because, you're going to have a lot more players now eligible to play college hockey. So in turn, you just wonder, does that mean more colleges are going to introduce Division I ice hockey to their university? They're going to have to at some point in time to fit in all these players, right?
Well, it's a cost-intensive sport, but I think what most people don't understand is that on on a team-by-team basis, men's hockey teams generate the third highest revenue of the team sports. Football, obviously, being number one. I think the average is about $15 million per team on the average, $8.5 million for basketball. And then hockey is a bit of a distant third, but it's about $2.5 million. So from a revenue generating standpoint, it represents income potential. So I think that's a plus. There's incentive where other collegiate sports cost money. Mm-hmm. They're loss leaders. Maybe it's in part, into Title IX, and I'm sure those are other concerns with all of the other stuff happening, in college sports. So not just hockey. So the landscape is going to continue to shift and change, and we're just going to keep doing what we do well.
Glenn, one area that separates football and basketball from the other sports is this NIL money, and people may not realize. I've talked to Jay Pandolfo, head coach at Boston University, other head coaches around college hockey. That NIL money hasn't necessarily trickled down to ice hockey yet. Certainly not in comparison to what we're seeing for football and basketball. So you wonder, is that landscape going to change? Could you see it change? Is NIL going to become a factor in an effort to recruit some of these players out of the CHL and into college hockey?
Well, I certainly think that's a possibility. It depends on the motivation level, right? So, we have resourceful owners as well that have multiple businesses, and so they certainly can be considering using NIL as a method to do that. I'm not so sure that's wise. I do worry about the professionalization of sport below the collegiate level. That is a concern because what's next? We're going to start paying high school players too. I think that's a big danger. When you look at the dichotomy, we're all governed. Most sport below the collegiate level is governed under the Ted Stevens Amateur Sports Act. And there's a bit of a conflict and dichotomy with that as it relates to college sports. And there needs to be, I think the NCAA needs to be very aware of how they structure their pre-enrollment rules on that would encourage further professionalization of the sport. I would imagine that once this new Congress gets seated, I would imagine that you're going to see some activity that will put some guardrails and start reining in how NIL is used or manipulated, or certainly prior to pre-enrollment. So that will be an interesting piece, and I would imagine that the USOPC, the U.S. Olympic Committee, is going to want to take that case up.
Yeah, no doubt about it, because we're seeing the impact that it's having on the college football and college basketball landscape already, for sure. What's the selling point? If a kid is trying to make a decision between the USHL and the CHL, which now they can do if they have their sights on playing college hockey, what's the selling point for the USHL to keep a kid in your league?
Well, I think if you look at, because we've been focused on developing college student athletes, that's been a core staple for us. 97% of USHL players will play Division I college hockey. And then take a look at the academic performance and graduation rate of men's hockey in the collegiate world. They're one of the highest rated sports. They have the highest academic progress rate, and I think they were second or third in graduation rate. So this is part of the preparation that we do. This is what we've been doing for years in preparing players. When you examine the USHL schedule, we play 92% of our schedule very similar to NCAA. We play on Friday and Saturdays. That is conducive for players to be able to do their academic work during the week as normal, high school students for the players that are, still in the high school age. So I think that alone, the environment we've created is most conducive for student athletes. It's what we've been doing, since the inception of the league being a junior league, which goes back to 1972. So I think from that standpoint, I just think we have a better track record. We'll have a strong track record to show that this is the environment to develop as a student athlete.
And let me ask you this, because, obviously this is going to generate a lot of change, maybe some confusion for kids in terms of which direction they want to go in. And also now for an opportunity for the USHL to recruit some kids from the CHL who may not be in a perfect situation. And they say, hey, listen, now I can go play in the USHL and still have my college eligibility. How would you tell your coaches and your owners throughout the league, and what areas do you think you're going to have to adjust or change the most? Do you see recruiting out of the CHL becoming something that you're not accustomed to doing, that you're going to have to start doing now?
Well, it's funny. We were reviewing a recent SWOT analysis, and that's, you are facing competition with everybody that wants good players. And so the CHL is no different. They've been trying to recruit the very best players this week, last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. That doesn't change. Our teams also want to recruit the very best players. So I don't think that part of it changes. There is a universe of about 3,000 top junior players in North America. And you'll have some churn, you'll have some movement in there. And I think that it boils down to just continuing to do the things that have gotten us to the position where we're in, where 97% of our players go to Division I. So I don't necessarily, just recently talking about this with some of our GMs, I don't necessarily think there's a lot we have to change. I think every league has things that it has to do better. We just have to prioritize some of those challenges, and I think we're going to continue to thrive as a league. And we're located in the heartland of many college programs, and this is it's just another evolution of our game. So as I said, I think there's a lot more to be made out of it than maybe they should be, because it seems seismic. And the CHL, I think, is they've been very geared towards professional player development, and I don't know how much of that they want to change. So I do say that we've had some really interesting conversations with the CHL leadership. A couple of really good guys that I've gotten to connect with, particularly Dan McKenzie and Dan Neer, and so there are some things that I think over a beer or two, we would absolutely come to agreement on things that we can work at and growing the game and helping the game to be a stronger. We are stewards of the game. It's not just not the immediate moment. It's what do we want this game to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and that's a shared responsibility with college hockey, the NHL, the American Hockey League, USHL, CHL, Hockey Canada, USA Hockey. Like, what do we want this game to be? I worry less about what we're doing in our environment, and I'm really more concerned about what's happening upstream in our younger levels. I think most people will agree we have a goaltending problem in the United States. When I hear coaches of 12U teams saying, "Well, my starting goalie," and I'm thinking to myself, "Your starting goalie? He's 12." What do you mean starting goalie? You should be developing two goaltenders. Yeah. You should be developing two goaltenders at 14. And so these are some of the challenges in the culture of our sport in the United States. I know it's happening in Canada too, where elite development is cost prohibitive. Mm-hmm. And that is a big challenge. You come to the USHL, if you're a good player, you're getting everything paid for: your billets, your sticks, your skates, your gear, everything. We cover it all. But that's not the case for the developing 14-year-old. And so my fear is that, a family looks at this and says, you know what? For a lacrosse stick and a pair of cleats, it's a hell of a lot better, investment, and maybe there's a better chance of you playing college lacrosse than college hockey. Because I don't know if I want to spend $25,000 for you to have a Bantam AAA season.
Mm-hmm.
That's concerning.
Yeah.
That's a big challenge for us across the board. I often herald Minnesota hockey. They lead the nation in the most male and female players in Division I, Division III, professional women's, and men's professional hockey. There's a reason for that. It is community based. The kids don't have to leave the state of Minnesota. It attracts the best athletes, but it's still getting expensive there too. So I think this is something we need to keep an eye on, and making sure that the sport remains accessible, for players as they make that choice. Where does every player, every young person experience sport for the very first time? In their hometown. And if we can't start making it accessible for kids across the country, it's hard to grow the sport. So, and I think if you look at the numbers will point that there's a stagnancy and there's a growth on the female side.
Mm-hmm.
It's not growing on the male side in the United States. I think the number has changed by about 10,000 players over the last 10 years. That's 1,000 players a year that we've grown. It's not enough.
Yeah, and we can take this conversation in so many different directions, and I'd love to have you back on to really talk about some of that stuff too at the root level, or the roots level. But before I let you go, how important will it be for you to keep the American player home and here in the USHL? I know you talk about the best players and whatnot, but the USHL has always been the number one junior league for the U.S.-based player who had their eyes on playing college hockey. Will that still be priority number one, to make sure that's an option for the American player?
We focus on getting the very best players we can get. Is our mission to help develop the American player? Absolutely. I think currently, I think last year's number for the CHL, they're 92% Canadian.
Yeah.
For us, it's 78% American. We focus on getting the very best players. If you want to build the best American players, you have to surround them with the very best players. And if they're from Czechia or Poland or Sweden or Canada, like, we want the very best players playing here, and many players throughout the world want to play here. So we want to have that option. We do have a limit on how many imports we can have, and that's appropriate. It's 6 right now. That may be subject to change, but I think that's a good place for us to be. And there was a comment made by Brian Burke many years ago, and it's, look, you want to have a great program. Make sure your program is open to the very best players in the world, and the USHL certainly fits that bill.
Yeah, I'm going to leave you with this one last question. I know you got to go, but isn't there some competition coming up, though, between the USHL and the CHL? Isn't there something that's being planned to get some of the best players facing one another?
Yeah, I think there's a series that they'll play at the end of the month. The national team program will go and play a select team from the CHL. We certainly we've suggested creating an all-star game between us and the OHL or the Q and or the Dub. Anybody that wants to do it, we thought maybe at the Stadium Series last year that would be a possibility. I think there was a concern about vicarious professionalism being a problem, but we cleared that hurdle with the NCAA. It was just never materialized. But as I said, we certainly feel that having cross competition would be beneficial for everybody.
All right, Glenn. Listen, I know you got to go. I want to bring you back on. We'll expand this conversation. So much to get into. Appreciate your time and all the work you've done with the USHL. So keep that up.
Thanks so much. I appreciate the time.
All right, you got it, Glenn. Glenn Hefferan, commissioner of the USHL. Great stuff from him. As always, that conversation brought to you by Lordo's Diamonds. Check it out. LordosDiamonds.com, right there in the heart of the do. 314-432-8008. Stop on in. Say hi to Mike and Jimmy. All right, Jamal Mayers joining us on the other side. Lots more to get into here on this edition of Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community. Don't go anywhere. Jamal Mayers in studio.
You didn't even know that?
I didn't.
Oh,
I thought you were coming in remotely. I had no idea. Hey, I was just talking to the commissioner of the USHL. You following the story?
Yes.
Because I didn't bring this up to you in the green room when we were discussing our planning for the show here on Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community. What's going to change, and who's going to benefit? Who's this going to hurt?
I think it's going to hurt the North American Hockey League.
Okay.
This is my just not knowing anything.
And that's the Tier 2 junior league here in the States. Explain why.
I think what's going to happen is you're going to see teams, college teams, start to recruit from major junior.
Mm-hmm. Not
unsimilar to what Quinnipiac did when they started recruiting older freshmen and then ended up winning a national championship. Yeah. That's why it started to trend where a lot of schools are doing similar things. Very rare do you see a true freshman in college.
Yeah.
I think what's going to happen over time is you're going to see kids go to junior, major junior, play till they're 18. They'll know if they get drafted or not. And if they want to prolong their likelihood or not likelihood of playing professionally, at 19 or 20, they can go then, in my mind, buy 4 more years of development and go play college hockey at 20. And then maybe at 24, they become a player. But at the very least, they go get an education.
Yeah.
So who does that hurt? To me, it hurts the North American League because the USHL is so good at developing players and pushing them into college. I don't think that's going to stop. Those players are still going to be placed on college programs. I think where it hurts is it's going to hurt the North American leagues and the BCHL league and those types of leagues because instead now they're going to pull from major junior. If I'm Western Michigan, I'm calling Pat Frischwell. I'm saying, who's your scout in the OHL? Because they should be watching 18-year-olds, junior players that may not have a path, aren't likely to get drafted, aren't likely to get picked up on a pro team, and want to go play somewhere else for at least 2 more years. Come to Western Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, the BC League, I could see it hurting them because a lot of kids who want to play college who are Canadian, that's their path to get there because for years that's how they maintain their college hockey eligibility is by playing Tier 2 junior hockey in Canada. The thing is, what people need to realize is that coming out of the CHL right now, you cannot that completely ruins your Division 3 eligibility. So players who play in the CHL are not eligible to play Division 3 hockey.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that may save some of those leagues you're talking about, like the North American League, which most of those kids who move on to play college hockey out of that league, a large percentage of those kids are playing Division 3. So it may save that league from that standpoint. And I do like the fact that Division 3 can't pluck kids out of the CHL, and so it does protect some of those secondary leagues that you're referring to. But in Canada, the BC League, for example, if a kid wants to play college hockey, so in the past, I'll just go play in the BC League, competitive league. I still have my college hockey eligibility. Well, now he can just go play Tier 1 and play in the CHL. So the high-end player there, but Division 3 college hockey will still recruit out of those leagues. But still, I think it's going to weaken the BC League, maybe more so in comparison to the North American League, because you got to have a lot of American kids who are playing AAA and whatnot, who still won't be at the level necessary to go play in the CHL or even the USHL, and that's going to be their path, and they're Division 3 college players, right?
Right. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. Do more kids, U.S. kids, decide to go play major junior because you can still go play college?
Yeah. Oh, I think so.
Like, to me, if you're good enough, right? Before it was a hard no.
Yeah.
It was go to school and you can still.
Right.
Now it's like, it's 17, 18. If you're good enough, why not go play major junior?
But I do think, like, the kids at the National Team Development Program, I don't think you're going to lose those kids to go play in the CHL.
No.
And so I do think the USHL is still going to be a strong league. I still think you may get some kids who are third-line kids in the CHL who maybe aren't getting that opportunity to move up and get the ice time and the opportunities in the CHL, who maybe come down to the USHL. You know what I mean? And and come to play junior hockey in the States. And I do think there's a lot of American kids who still will take that path through the USHL versus moving to Canada and whatever, So it'll be interesting. I don't know if how quickly we're going to see this change. I think what we're going to see right off the bat, and it's new and it's different, so it's going to get a lot of attention. You're just going to see a lot of kids who are playing in the CHL, playing major junior in Canada, who are now going to find their way playing college hockey, which is it's going to strengthen the college hockey.
Again, I can't reiterate it enough.
Mm-hmm.
If I am a college program, I am hiring another person on staff who is now going to recruit the OHL right now.
Yeah, you have to.
And start to make a list of 19 and 19-year-olds, right?
Yeah.
Because overage is 20?
Overage is 20. And the CHL schedule is different than the USHL's. The USHL schedule is more similar to a college hockey schedule. They play on the weekends. The CHL schedule is more like a pro schedule. I've had NHL players tell me over the years who played college hockey that if they had to do it over again, maybe they would have gone and played in the CHL because maybe that type of schedule, that type of stress on your body would have prepared them for the NHL a little better, although you don't get the same type of strength training and the facilities that come with playing college hockey. You're not getting that in the majority of CHL franchises. What you find playing college hockey.
I've never heard that before.
Oh,
in my 17 years of playing, not once did I have a college player say I should have played junior. It's always the junior players realizing, oh my God, why didn't I go to college?
Can I give you an example?
Yeah.
Like Eric Johnson, for example. He was the first overall pick.
Well, that's
okay. So I'm talking about the high end player.
How many years?
So versus playing
college did he play?
Versus one,
right.
Versus playing like 30 games. You know what I'm saying? Okay, playing 30 games versus the CHL schedule where they're playing whatever 65, 70 games, whatever it is. It's different, and you're playing throughout the week. It's every other day. It's more of a grind, I think. The travel, all of that. It's different. And I think for the high-end player who knows they're going to the NHL, and that's the difference, Jamal.
That's completely different. You're talking about Matthew and Brady, right? Like that.
Yeah, the kid who knows they're going to the NHL. But I just said I've had NHL players tell me that. So I'm talking about the kid who knows they're going to the NHL. Some kids are hoping to get to the NHL, but certain kids know they're going to go play in the NHL. And for those kids, even the ones who have chosen college, had a great experience, probably don't look back on it, but others feel like, hey, maybe the development would have been better if they just went and played in the CHL in terms of preparing them to play the National Hockey League schedule, in terms of the number of games and whatnot.
Okay, I'll concede that, but you're talking about literally a handful
100%.
of players where I'm talking about
100%.
The majority of guys who played college hockey for 2 or 3 or 4 years. There's no way.
No, 100%. That's what I'm referring to. The high-end guy. But we're going to see the high-end guy now, like Macklin Celebrini, for example, who goes to BU, who's a Canadian kid, played in the USHL. If the rules and regulations are what they will be moving into next season, would he have taken the same path? Would he have gone to the Chicago Steel? Or would he have gone and played in the WHL,
I think it would make more sense for a guy like that to go play in the major junior.
Mm-hmm. And then go to BU if he wanted to.
Yeah. Like his backup plan could have been that.
Mm-hmm.
But you go play major junior, get drafted first overall.
Right. So he had to go to Chicago if he wanted to play college hockey.
He had to. Instead, he could have went and played junior.
Right. I was talking to a dad the other day. He's got a kid playing prep school right now, drafted in the USHL. The plan is for him to go to the USHL next year, but now he's rethinking that. His kid's going to play college.
Yeah.
But now he's rethinking it and saying, well, maybe he'll just go play in the OHL next year. The way the OHL has always been played has kind of been more of a pro model in terms of the structure of the game, how they play.